Call to order the November meeting of Newbury Human Resources Board. Present are Mark Leckman, Chair.
John Farrar.
Anthony Antico. Rick Harris.
John Lucy.
Diane Doyle.
Thank you all. First order of business is to review the meeting minutes of the September 24 meeting, since we did not meet in October. Let's just take a minute on that, please. Everyone had the opportunity to read through the minutes. Is there a motion to accept?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Meetings are accepted as written. Thank you, Diane. John Lucy, anything to discuss relative to current employee issues?
Yeah, there was one actually just prior to coming to this meeting, something to put before the board to review. I don't even know if there's anything in the current bylaws that cover this, but holiday rate for part-time personnel that work on a holiday. What we have for at the PD right now for people that are covered under the collective bargaining is if you work any hours on a holiday, you get paid at a time and a half rate. We have very recently separated out the communication personnel from the collective bargaining, so they stand on their outside of that now. And when they work a holiday, just because there's nothing, it's silent on it, they are only getting straight rate. So my guess is if it's not addressed, and again, I didn't have a chance to review the bylaws on it, but if it's not addressed, it's because usually on the holidays, there's no town employees that are working, that aren't covered, that aren't covered with collective bargaining. So it's probably a new topic that just arose. So if we can kind of throw that out there and see what we can put together, cobble together for a recommendation for that, if we are so inclined. What that would cover is our communication personnel that are not collective bargaining.
Okay, so is the question then, just make sure I'm clear, should the communication staff, which is no longer or which is not covered by collective bargaining, be given the same holiday rate as staff which is covered by collective bargaining? Is that the fundamental question?
That's essentially it, yeah. Now, I don't know where the purview would stop, I don't know. I mean to have it just be the communication personnel, I don't know if that's appropriate, if that's going to be town personnel. If the verbiage should be in there at the approval of the manager, that rate could be established. I don't know, but some sort of verbiage at the end of that.
Diane, do you know if there is current language in our personnel policy, if not the bylaw, in the personnel policy which covers, standard language on pay rate for holidays for town staff that are not covered by collective bargaining?
Well, they would be, it's a little bit different because we have people who are technically non-benefit eligible employees, which this would be considered a non-eligible, benefit eligible employee. They are not eligible for holiday pay. So for example, the assistant town clerk who works less than 20 hours, if a holiday falls on a Monday, she just doesn't get paid because she's not here. This is a little bit different because they're not benefit eligible employees, so technically they're not eligible for holiday pay, but if they're working on a holiday, the question as I understand it is, should they then be given a time and a half rate? So it's, they're not benefit eligible, so that you're not looking for them to be compensated for a holiday.
They don't get holiday pay, they don't get holidays, so that if it falls on a day off, they get back 8 hours. No, it's if they have, you're basically keeping what we've always done. If they physically work on a holiday as defined by the person, the HR board.
I'm looking to see.
they will get paid time and a half rate.
This would be a singular case because of the nature of police
Yeah,
work.
they're 24/7, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like they, town hall's closed on holidays,
Mhm.
so,
As the library is, also has limited week and
right,
holiday issue for you is unique.
right.
These communication people you talk about, they work with you guys physically in the same
Yes.
area?
Yeah, same
It's
building.
like the dispatchers
Yeah,
kind of.
that's exactly what the other dispatch is, yeah.
So the way that the current policy reads, employees required to work the holiday shall receive holiday pay and regular pay. So don't they receive double pay, double time? Isn't their rate double? It's not time and a half, it's usually double.
When they were part of the collective bargaining,
Yep,
it was time and a half.
okay.
Now they are not, so it would revert to whatever the town.
I thought under the collective bargaining agreement it was double time.
Oh, for full-timers, yes.
Okay.
For full-time, it's totally different.
So what
Yeah,
about
full-timers, they
reserves?
do their own thing, this is
These
just
are part-time
part-time.
stuff.
Yeah, the
Right,
part-
but what about reserve officers, are
Same
they
thing.
double time?
Anybody that's part-time is time and a half.
Okay. Well, the way this reads, employees required to work the holiday shall receive holiday pay and regular pay, i.e. double time, or an additional paid day off subject to the approval of the department head. But they wouldn't receive an additional a day off because they're not entitled to holiday pay.
Correct. So what is the definition of holiday pay?
Holiday pay is if you are a benefit eligible employee and you are entitled to 10 holidays, if you're entitled to that holiday, then you're paid the
So
holiday.
that's just speaking for benefit eligible people,
So is there no provision in the current regs for
part-time,
part-time
non,
folks that are required on?
Well,
Could that be
this-
somebody like,
But this reads
highway
all
department?
permanent full-time and permanent part-time. So they're not really permanent part-time because they're reserves. They're
yeah,
they're less than permanent
so they're a
part-time.
separate category?
Yeah. They're less, yeah, they're not benefits eligible.
Could
This
it be
just
any-
says employees required to work. So up above it says all permanent full-time and permanent part-time employees who are in a pay status immediately prior to and after the said holiday. So in other words, they're not out the day before or the day after, shall receive a regular hourly rate for the number of hours equal to his or her regular day for the following 11 holidays. Holidays that occur on a weekend shall be observed on the next Monday. Employees required to work the holiday.
Right, but that wouldn't apply here because it refers back to an employee population that is not.
Benefit eligible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
you're
benefit
speaking
eligible.
to benefit eligibility there, I think that's the big problem. And the other thing too is, the passage you said that they have to be working before or after the holiday,
They have to be, in other words, they can't
take one day off, the day before.
They can't call in sick or they can't quit. We had a situation where someone gave their final notice on a Thursday and Monday was, their last day was a holiday, which was on a Monday. So they quit, they resigned, and they set their last day as the Monday holiday. Well, they weren't employed the next day, so they're not entitled to the holiday pay.
Right.
Well, this is a singular group. They're not benefit eligible, but they are being required with a 24/7 requirement for police department to be on the job during a holiday period.
Well, the thing is too, exactly, but the other thing too is if it's going to be in the bylaws, that bracket might get bigger when you start talking about fire personnel or other.
It's not gonna be on the bylaws any longer. It's gonna sit within the policy of the town. It's not
Okay,
gonna be-
all right.
That's a separate
Just-
issue.
Yeah.
Just-
My bad. I would just, the scope might, I'm looking at a very small scope, but I don't know if it actually will expand.
Yeah, I would think the first thing we'd wanna do, just to set parameters, is to ensure that there aren't other people in the employee population that might already be covered under similar circumstances. I can't think of any.
Well, somebody mentioned highway department.
I was gonna say highway department as a part, does the highway department have any people who would be in the same category
They
as
don't have
those
part-time
dispatchers?
personnel.
No part-timers? Can you
So
think of
they're
any,
full-time.
can you think of anyone else in the employee population that would be
I don't
consistent
know
with
if
this?
call firefighters are considered part-time when they're told, I mean, that's always been kind of a secret to me. But that's, maybe we can't answer that
Yeah,
right
there's some
now, but it's
research
a
going on.
question we have to find out.
Okay.
That
So
was
there's two questions. One, what is the size of the population of employees we're talking about? And then two, what is the appropriate answer to the question?
Right.
What should the pay rate be?
How many people are you talking about?
Right now, there's only two,
Mm.
but, actually three. And it might grow, possibly max out at five, but right now it's three.
When you say part-time, how many days, or you look at it from hours
It's-
perspective? or-
Yeah, well, that's like nail and gel as well too, because a lot of open shifts that they can take, but they're regularly scheduled for 16 hours a week. But they can also take, shifts that are, become vacant or whatever, but they're regularly scheduled 16. But a lot of times those shifts fall, it becomes problematic for us too, administratively, because it's hard to fill holiday shifts, and if there's no benefit to it, it makes it a little bit more difficult.
You also could have shifts that are split, half on a holiday, half on a non-holiday day.
Yeah, but that's not a problem at all for me, because it's, the way we generate payroll is the only hours that are affected are the ones on the day. So if it is a split shift, like we have a swing shift where 11 at night till 7 in the morning. If someone comes in Christmas Eve at 11 at night, and they have Christmas as a holiday, they only get holiday pay from midnight to
Right.
7, that's it. That's, it is, so.
So what's the next step?
Mayor, I
Yep.
think that, I know that there is, in Massachusetts, there are statutes that cover overtime, et cetera, et cetera. And there may be some reference in there to
Yeah,
holiday.
FLSA might, actually, I didn't even look into that either. They might have that covered, like you said, that's a good point.
We can inquire to legal counsel.
But actually, you make a great point, I mean, the answer might be already there, that it's a mandate.
Yeah. I don't think from what Diane was reading, it probably doesn't, we probably didn't
It's silent on
separate
silent,
that out
yeah.
as a separate line item, so.
Right.
Okay.
But again, this is just a quick unveiling of, the answer's not gonna come tonight, it's just
Right.
something to think about.
Yeah, but this should be something we can take care of in the next meeting. We'll do a little bit of homework on it. And Tracy talk to town council, see if there's any precedent for it. Tony's point, check Mass chapter.
And given the very singular nature of this class of employee, I wonder if this doesn't become a department head's decision. Council ought to chat about that, as opposed to town edict. I mean, it's a brand new class, non-eligible and part-time, required to work because of the 24/7 nature of the work.
I kinda have mixed emotions on leaving it up to it's either you do or you don't.
You want some written instruction?
Yeah, I think it's gotta be a black and white.
Yeah.
This is what you get for this, not have it subjective, not have it dictated by budgetary restrictions and all that. From an administrator, that probably sounds crazy, I'm saying that, but realistically,
That makes sense.
but we treated it, take the subjectivity right out of it.
Well, I know this is gonna come under item 7, but maybe what we do is modify this paragraph B to read any employee, or any full-time, permanent, part-time, or part-time, and change it to time and a half.
But the problem you
Based-
have with that is that it incorporates 8 hours of entitled over the holiday for benefits eligible people, and the part-time don't have that. You know what I'm saying?
Required to work a holiday, in other words, any employee, that way it would cover somebody else, if there were somebody else that had to work.
This might require a sub-paragraph of its own
Yeah.
Okay,
that reads specific for non-benefit eligible, but required to be on duty due to the nature of the work.
okay.
I mean, literally, it describes this singular individual group. They'll have a line of their own.
To speak to what you said earlier too, it would be up to the department head whether they wanna fill the shift. That's where the control comes in, the department head, do I wanna fill this shift?
Yeah.
How, but the compensation for that shift wouldn't be up to the department head, that would be,
The department head will determine the number and categories of employees needed for holiday work.
okay, yeah.
I may have missed it, somebody mentioned the fire department. Why would not all firefighters have been in this category of person?
I have no idea. I don't know what category, and that's always eluded me. I don't know exactly, how it's defined.
Yeah. That's the other thing we'll have to be careful of, is just to make sure there's
Right.
consistency across departments.
Like when the alarm rings, when are they part-time town employees, or are they?
They're basically kind of like per diem. I mean, they just come in on an as needed basis.
Yeah,
Which,
Whether-
but, you know, yeah, but which is kind of, we just want to be cognizant of that, because that's what my dispatches are too, you know, as needed, well, they need it.
Yeah.
It's just more structure that they needed, you know,
Right.
so if a firefighter
Then
comes
the-
in, and they're defined as part-time personnel, they come in on a 4th of July or something like that, they have a different rate, which is gonna affect adversely
Yeah.
their budget.
and if called firefighters were in fact considered to be the same classification of employees, then the population rises from 4 or 5 to maybe 15. If, you know, you're calling in a number of people to fight a
Right.
fire on a holiday, so.
So these people don't have a set schedule. They come in as a called
Correct.
fireman might, for example.
Oh,
No, the
no, we
dispatch-
were just thinking of the scope of how this might affect, you know, whatever we come up with. Our guys, our dispatchers, yeah, they're very set
Oh.
schedule.
Okay.
Yeah, that's easily controlled,
Mm.
and we, you know, there's cost certainty, really, you know, in that, you know, for administrative perspective.
You wanna have a conversation with
But
Tracy on
if
Yeah, I'll.
what
send
we
her-
decide, whatever we propose here is considered, and now all firefighters are also considered
I'll see.
Chances
part-time personnel.
Mm.
When the alarm rings, now they're responsible on a Christmas day or whatever, is going to be 1.5 times what it was in the past.
But the pure per diem concept is different though.
If that's it,
Your
that's right.
guys are there, and what happens if it does fall on a holiday? Do they say, well, you know, you take this shift and I'll take, I didn't get it, you get it, does it cause confusion, or would it?
As far as in my job,
Mm.
no, not at all. No, the schedule is very structured. And, you know, if there's an open shift that falls on a holiday, if it gets to you, if you get the call, are you available, do you want it? Yeah, I'll take it, and then they work it, and then they get the holiday rate. It's
Mm.
very, very simple. There's no confusion, it's very streamlined. But it's new because they've just recently been removed from the collective bargaining with, you know, which, you know, the collective bargaining agreement that they just got stricken from speaks very clearly to it, and now they're, you know, twisted, and it just kind of popped up this week, you know, guys.
When did they separate out of collective bargaining?
When was that signed? It was like in March or something.
So what has been the practice from the time
It's
they
always, well, they were part of the collective bargaining at dispatchers, and what it has been is when you work, a part-time person works a holiday,
Right.
as defined there, they get time and a half for those hours worked on the holiday.
Could I ask the rationale for separating them out?
Well, yeah, you can. The more question would be, what was rational for having them included? It was, they never really should have been, you know, way back, it's so different. Police officers and their duties and responsibilities and scopes are so different than dispatch. They really shouldn't have been entwined, it was just more of a housekeeping, that they, you know, it was however the collective bargaining went on for this last contract that was just signed, it just enacted, they were removed from it. And if that's more standard with most police departments.
These are 911 types, though, right?
Yeah.
And they serve the public as well?
Oh, yeah, they're the ones that we call, they're the ones that answer the phone, and they're the ones that send us.
Well, the practice, there hasn't been an issue because we just hired the first one in July.
Yeah, I mean,
So
yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
this question has come up because we've only had
That's a good point.
one holiday, I think, or two holidays. We
And,
just hired the first communications officer.
right, I think this is the first time, this is the first cycle of the communications officers that we're talking about have worked a holiday. There's a lot of things there's a perfect storm that just came to raise this question just over the past pay cycle. And, we have a lot of reserve officers that work the desk too. They're covered under the collective bargaining, so when they're on the desk, they get time and a half. Because they're reserve officers, they are covered under that agreement. When an ECO person, emergency communication officer, or a dispatcher, now, since this revision comes in, they're not covered under anything except the policies.
So they're losing money.
Oh, yeah. Which, you know, no one really saw it coming, here we are, now,
Yeah.
you know, we can figure it out. And, you know, it's just,
It just fell through the cracks.
yeah, it was just kind of, hey, look, this is something that we didn't
Sure.
see this one coming. And, you know, no one's beating the drums, no one's yelling and screaming about it, they just kinda, you know, they ask me, just ask, hey, can we kind of fix it?
Yeah. I would just ask you to go back to them and explain that as is usually the case, the wheels of the gods grind somewhat slowly around
Yeah.
here. And so given holidays coming up, you know, we may have an answer within 30 days, it may be 60.
Yep, you know, and they're fine, they're absolutely, nobody's upset, nobody's rattling sabers, if they're absolutely, right now it's only two wheelers, soon to be three. And,
It's a good catch.
yeah,
Okay.
And it's not a giant revenue issue.
No.
You might ask council if retro pay is allowed, if you think that's amenable.
I don't think we had anybody that worked, that did Brad, he's the
Brad,
only one.
yeah, Brad's the only one, and,
You would have to
I
look
don't
to see
think
if he
Tina
worked
did.
Labor Day.
Yeah, I can double check it and see, I don't think so, but you know, it's not, it's pretty much budget neutral for past years because they were always paid that way. This is just, you know, it's just carrying forward the same that is always there.
What I'm wondering about is, do we need a change in the policy? Can't you, as the manager, decide how to pay these people?
That's a very good question, I don't think so. I don't think so because on a similar thing, you know, shift differential was removed from them as well. And I know Mike tried to, address that. By shift differential, the same officers, they don't get, a shift differential because they're outside. That's for all the same reasons we've been talking about. When they work an evening shift, there's supposed to be a 5%, incentive and then a premium for, you know, the evening shift, and there's an 8% premium for the overnight shifts. Basically, those are the really hard, inconvenient shifts to work, those ones that have the most negative impact on people's personal lives, so they get compensated for that through the contract. Since they were removed, they also lose that. But unbeknownst to, you know, us, we generate the payroll anyway, I still included that in there, not being told otherwise, it got kicked back, and I know that there was, some dialogue with Mike and, I don't know if it was, I think it was Tracy, because you caught it, and there was, Tracy, since it was silent on it in the policies, they don't get the differential either. So,
And I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that other department heads might find themselves in a position where they have a similar classification of employees, and what you don't want is two department managers
Yep.
with different.
I definitely think that the compensation has to be consistent and not subjective to whoever's doing payroll, or whoever the administrative is. I think, you know, I really think it has to be, hey, look, if we want to put something forward that says they get the differential and they get the holiday or just, whatever we come up with, it's defined in the policies, and that's how it's done across the board, that's what that.
It might just be as simple as, should it be straight pay or should it be time and a half?
Yep,
Right?
exactly.
That's
So
the
there might
sales
just be an item C here.
Yep.
Edited.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So an action item will be that I'll email Tracy, we'll check the FLSA, and see if we can do some research on
Right,
that.
that's fair.
Okay.
I might suggest, given that and we'll talk about this later, our next scheduled meeting is Christmas Eve, we'll have to.
You got me here, right?
We'll have to decide if we wanna move the meeting up a week, or if.
But according to your house with Giuseppe's, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of meatballs. If we decide not to physically meet, we can still attend to this issue, to be sensitive, and I understand it's not a crushing issue at the moment, but it should be something we could handle pretty quickly. A couple of phone calls, a little bit of research, and, you know, if we can get back to you folks,
Yeah.
you know, before the first of the year, that would be
That'd be
great,
great.
so,
That'd be great.
we'll figure that out.
May I ask a question? What is the gut reaction, the gut feeling about this?
Of this committee or?
Of the committees? Yeah.
I think it's important that these kids get paid properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
From an administrative perspective, that's directly affected by it, I'm absolutely 100% for it,
Mm.
because it's, you know, for the reasons you just said, you know, it's not, you know, it should be some compensation working a holiday, and it just from a facilitation.
And being the odd group out.
Well, yeah, they are the odd group out.
That has might have a morale impact.
In trying to fill the open shifts, you know, in a selfish way too, trying to fill the open shifts. The more enticing it is to work that shift, the easier it is to make sure that we get the coverage. And that helps too. So just operationally, it's a win for us. And again, it's just the right thing to do.
It is the right.
And you want it in structure, so you don't have to be the subjective manager of
Yes, yeah,
decisions.
either we do it or we don't, yeah.
You want rules of the road.
Okay,
That's right.
okay, thank you, John.
Yeah.
Anything else under employee issues?
Oh, is that? No. Think that's something else.
Personnel actions and job vacancies, Diane, you hinted that there are a couple of things coming down the pipe for classification?
I do,
Wanna
and
talk
I
about that?
actually need to schedule that. So we have my understanding is that the DPW is going to be, hiring their own admin, that those duties and responsibilities have currently been under the Board of Selectmen administrative assistant, so I'm gonna be having that. And also, we have two other ones that are, we have a temporary clerk finance position, so if we have to bring somebody in on a temporary basis to cover the desk, or if somebody's out for an extended period of time, we wanna have something in place that has the rate set and the duties.
Okay,
Somebody answer the phone, do some filing.
just trying to get ahead of that.
So that's a quick one. And then there was a question brought up on, and something proposed for a fire mechanic position. And I've got a job description on that. So basically, I have three.
This is,
Three
again, a new
classification
position?
and all these, yeah.
This is a new position yet to be filled?
Well, it's a new position, but as I understand it, there was a stipend for that same position. Previously, we had approved a list of, fire stipends based on people's responsibilities and levels, so lieutenant, so I don't know how that fits with the stipend that's already in place versus the new job description.
Okay,
So that might be,
that's
we
something
would
that
have,
would require Doug to come and
Right.
discuss it?
Are they looking for somebody to staff it, from existing staff?
yes,
Oh, I see, okay.
so I
So it's
don't
on
know
the
what,
side, another
I don't know if
position.
the stipend is gonna go away and then this will come forward, or how that is
Okay,
positioned, but I do
has Doug
have,
made a formal request
Yes.
to,
I have that,
okay, so maybe we would ask him for a little bit,
yes.
um,
So I would
of
ask
an
him
explanation as to
to,
whether this takes the place of a stipend, or he's
Correct.
thinking about something else, or,
yep, so he
Yep.
would he would attend the classification hearing, I would assume.
right,
So there are three relatively, I don't wanna say complicated, uncomplicated.
Yeah.
But we would need to schedule some time to get
okay,
those before
and how
then.
time sensitive are,
I mean, I'd like to get them done as soon as we could.
okay, refresh my memory, I know I served on a subcommittee, who else?
Right.
Rick, Diane, three-person subcommittee?
You two, and then,
Okay, you'd like to get this done in December?
yeah, I'd like to, if we could get it wrapped
Around?
up before the end of the year.
We'll just take a minute and look at respective calendars, see if we can get this accomplished.
I mean, two of them I think are relatively easy, it's the mechanic one, I
Okay.
think that might be a little.
What we'll
bit
do
more.
is we'll come up with a proposed date, and then you can check with Doug to see, and who's, would the,
The temporary clerk one would be myself, and the DPW administrative assistant position would be most likely Tracy, or, yeah.
somebody would need to be
Or
available
James,
to
yeah.
to discuss it, okay,
And I can get the drafts out to folks before the meeting.
okay. Are you here during the month of December, you're around generally, okay? Rick, how about you?
Yeah, I'm good, well, Fridays we don't worry about, right? So I'm good most days, but before, say, 3:30 or 4. So if we were gonna do something in the morning, that would be good for me.
How about, what about Thursday, the 13th of December?
Okay.
That gives everybody plenty of time to see if they can set their calendar. Thursday, the 13th at,
First thing in the morning?
9, earlier? Rick?
I'm okay, well, am I okay?
9?
9 is, let's just say, 9 is best.
Tony, you wanting to attend as well, or?
Yeah, I did, but Thursday at 9 is, I do that cardio rehab at Anna Jake's, so
Okay.
I'm out for that.
We'll put you up on deck on the next one.
Okay.
So 9 AM, we'll schedule 90 minutes just to be on the safe side with 3 positions?
Yeah, that should be more than enough.
from 9 to 10:30 on on Thursday, the 13th.
And I'll get,
And Diane, if you could confirm with Tracy and/or whoever is responsible for the DPW and Doug,
Yep.
to see if they would both be available for, 20 minutes or half an hour at any point in time during that 90 minutes.
yep, and I will email out the job descriptions ahead
Okay.
of that.
And Rick and I will just pencil it into the calendars and wait confirmation from you.
Confirmation. Mhm.
Perfect,
Great, thank you.
okay. Anything else in personnel actions or job vacancies? No?
No, nothing
Not aware of anything in the discrimination or ethics issues category?
Safety issues?
Safety issues? Okay, other business? As I think folks are aware, the new HR bylaw was passed by acclamation at town meeting after. It was strategically placed right after the vote on the combined PD town hall, and not unexpectedly, it slid through without much discussion. So,
You're welcome.
sorry. I guess the easiest way to describe it is that after having, Tracy, after having reviewed this, both our internal documents and with town council recommended a different strategy, which was, of course, the right strategy, which was to take everything that should have been a policy or procedure out of the bylaw category and just create a generic bylaw which says, going forward, that the HR board, in concert with TA and town administration, can make its own decisions about human resources, policies, and procedures, so that every time we want to change, or dot an I or cross a T, we do not have to go back to town meeting for approval, which was a great ending point for us. So, for future reference, it'll be much easier for us to change anything we deem appropriate to change in the policies and procedures categories. And what that leaves us with now is, revising what is officially our human resources policies and procedures manual. And Tracy did, was that what she sent along?
Yep, so this was sent by, town council as a kind of a draft based on all of the language changes that we had made.
Right.
So I think what we would, I didn't mean to,
That's all right.
but this is what she had sent.
Yeah, I would think that this might require the services of a subcommittee to,
One last time.
to review this, and make sure that it's complete, make sure it covers all of the subject matter that we deem appropriate for a policies and procedures manual, add and subtract to it, change it, edit it as we see fit, take one final vote, and then put it in the books.
This is,
So it would be the policy.
we've worked this thing over several times, and it's just because of the vote now that by separating out the policies and procedures from the bylaw, that we need to make sure that we're okay with the policies and procedures as stated here.
Right. My one concern, and if this is unclear to me, maybe you've got the answer to it, Diane. We had previously personnel bylaws, now called human resources bylaws, that really felt and read more like policies, procedures.
Hmm.
We also have a well-crafted handbook that each employee gets on a Monday. And my guess is that does that include everything we had in the handbook, or just what had previously been described as HR bylaws?
That's probably a question you have to review. You go through the handbook and.
That's what I'm thinking,
Step by step,
that we need to make sure one maps.
So we don't know what town council specifically did though.
Right.
Well, I could certainly go back and ask what town council did, but my understanding was when we sent all of those language changes, it came back with, this is what you should do with the bylaw,
Right.
that should be your policy and procedure
Right,
manual.
right.
And my feeling, although I would confirm it, is that would replace your employee handbook. That really becomes your
That's right.
policy manual.
Yeah.
And then from there, we would also have to do the same with our manager's guide.
Right, to make sure that maps.
But I can certainly confirm that the intention is that this policy manual would become our handbook.
Yeah.
Because it also has included in there, which we haven't had in the past, all of the new legal references to all the new laws that are out there in terms of
Yeah.
various laws, et
Yeah.
cetera. So,
I wanna open this up for discussion. My only concern is that if this was created based solely on the existing or the previous language in what had been our two HR bylaws, then it may not be as complete as we would like it to be, because we spent, those of us who were in the board at the time recall, we spent months crafting this, I thought, a very well put together handbook, which includes, or at the time was our policies, procedures. So I would just, again, I'm not looking to make busy work here, but I think in deference to all the time that was spent in that original handbook, I would recommend, depending on what you hear from
okay, town
from
council.
town council, that we review this side by side with the manual, with the policy handbook, to make sure there aren't other things that we would need to embed in this document before it's.
Yeah, you don't wanna have, I agree, you don't wanna have two documents, I don't think.
No.
I think you wanna have this either incorporate all the high point, or all the points of your handbook, and that's it.
Right.
You know, I don't think I mean, you could look at the handbook as being just like an end user's guide to working in the town of
Yeah.
Newbury, and that's, you know,
Yeah.
and
But you wanna make sure it has the languages and odds.
Yeah, and you can do something like that, but regardless, I think, if I'm hearing it, I'm kinda thinking the handbook's gonna be revisited
Yeah,
in either really watered down, you know, to like an end user, really simple.
right. Because that handbook was very specific
Very
to not
comprehensive.
just policies,
Yes.
procedures, but
But that's where,
benefits and mass chapter law and.
My understanding that it should incorporate what's in the handbook, because the handbook mapped to what the bylaws were, and that was the
But it's
problem.
still, yeah, but
And that was
But
the problem.
it was much more expansive than the bylaws.
yeah, I think it was much more
But I-
descriptive.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But I think a lot of what was in the handbook is in that document,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I can certainly raise the question to town council.
Okay, if you could just, explain that we've got this, my guess is she did not get access to the handbook
Okay.
when she was.
It's almost like get that handbook, go page it and see how it refers to it.
but what did they do with all of our marvelous changes that were
That's
generated?
in there.
That's in here.
They did,
Oh, yes,
they
yeah,
did
that's,
actually,
yes.
oh,
yeah,
okay.
she reviewed all that
Uh,
from town council perspective and edited as she saw fit. And the result of it is that document. And so I think the subcommittee would wanna look at that, and just to make sure that that there may not be other things to add to it based on what's in the handbook, so. Does that sound reasonable?
I think there only should be one, like, policies and procedures manual.
Agreed.
You know, call it maybe something else if you'd like, but
Yeah.
I think everything should be
Agreed.
in there.
Mhm.
Maybe even, you know, an employee section or something like that, but
Yeah.
remember, many times about this, in our discussions, well, we always talked about, well, that really should be in the employees, because that's where the employee looks, you know, and there were so many issues there that, and that really wasn't up to speed, so now it's a chance for that to be up to speed.
You could actually have like the first couple of pages, like a cover page,
Mm.
or cover sheet, incorporate into this for the quick reference as referred to, and then just, you know, just the high point stuff. I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, this is a deep read for any employee as constituted without the abstract that you're referencing,
Right.
a summary.
So the first question would be, in town council's opinion, should this be the operative document, not only for the town, but for employees? And if so, should we ensure that everything we want taken out of the handbook and added to it is appropriate?
I don't know, I think we should take responsibility for whether it's employee friendly. The way you just described it, town council would pronounce that it is employee friendly or not.
Okay,
Yeah.
So I think there's a step there. In fact, I mean, another alternative here is thank town council for the work that's been done. We'll take it from here. So we've got the We now have the bylaws established as the bylaws that enable this group to operate, and it's our responsibility for defining the policies and the procedures.
I think it's like, I echo that, I think you're absolutely right. I think what we need to do, maybe all of us individually, just have the handbook, take some time, read page 1 of the handbook, make sure it's referred, everything that's in the handbook, page 1, is referred in there. 2, 3, just go through it, just make sure that there's, there's something, there's a counterpart there. And then the second step is going, when we decide, okay, everything that's in here is addressed, maybe different verbiage or whatever, but if we're comfortable with the handbook being reflected accurately there, then we have to take step 2 and compose a cover sheet or 2 that's a real easy read. You open it up, hey, I got an issue with this, you have just the bullet thing.
Table of contents.
And then basically a little bit more,
Mhm.
and then, you can refer to it in that, whatever page it is there, so kind of a glossary.
It's an executive summary.
Well, I
Yeah,
have an
yeah.
executive summary that I provide to any new benefit eligible employee. Basically, it's everything, it's a 1-page document that says basically what you're entitled to. You're entitled to sick and vacation, you're entitled to insurance, you're entitled to longevity pay. I can bring a copy the next, basically it's just an executive summary, and I update that every July 1st with the new insurance rates, so that when I'm going through the packet, we have enrollment packets for new employees. We may have 2 or 3 a year, 4 a year that are benefit eligible. But it's basically a benefit eligible summary that outlines everything that they're entitled to, kind of pulling out of there what's really the nuts and bolts of what they wanna know. What do I get for sick time? What do I get for vacation? What am I entitled to for insurance? So I do have that, and that is part and parcel of their packet when they come on board.
Is it an imposition on your office to maybe put the summary, this new program together and the handbook, create 6 packages, and we'll all be responsible to come over and pick it up from you?
Yeah, we could also
and we'll-
make that eligible on our website and just have them sign something that says that they recognize that the policies and procedures of the town are, I think a lot of other towns may also do that, where they put their policy and their employee manual or policies up on the website.
Well, Mark is raising the issue that these things are coming from 2 different directions. One was to try to update the language in the bylaws, and the other was what got built for the manager's handbook and the employee handbook. And now the town council has come in and said, got it, and synthesized those things, and you're raising the question, do we think it's really been synthesized or not? And I think, to me, if I were going to look to somebody who I thought would be really good at doing that, I would look to the gentleman. And I would suggest, not that you do it, Tony, but I would suggest that you take
So
that.
you've already floated that.
Floated
No,
it.
he's already done
It
it.
came from the Bombay door.
I would suggest that you do that and then recommend to us whether more work is needed, as opposed to getting 6 copies and all of us burrowing into it to
Yeah.
see if we think more work is needed. I think your analytic ability would be one that could sort through that, and that's why I was volunteering you.
Good save.
Tony, I think that you and I could probably do that in a meeting in about an hour. I don't think it's gonna be a long drawn out thing. I think we could literally take the handbook, is this covered there, is this covered there, is this covered there? And I think what we'll find is the majority of it most likely will be. So I'm happy to sit with you and schedule a time where we can do that and get that done relatively quickly.
No wordsmithing.
No wordsmithing,
wordsmithing.
just.
Oh, I love wordsmithing. There'll be
Are
a
you
lot-
amenable to that?
What's that?
Are you amenable to
Oh,
that?
sure, that'd be fine.
Sure.
Okay.
So we'll leave it to you and Diane to play with that. And I guess my point only in terms of, I guess I just wanted to make sure that in dealing with town council on this, that we understood, which language changes she made that are required inclusions versus, I prefer you to say it that way, and we may feel it differently, that's all. I would agree that the town council should not be driving the bus on this, but we wanna make sure that in crafting it in a way that's comfortable for us as a board, we're not losing any of the required language that town council is saying must be included in this document. make sense?
So we'll check before we leave,
Okay,
we'll set a time.
so, yeah, and if you could, just alert the board as to how that's going,
Okay.
that's great.
Is that on the website?
No, because that's a draft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Did you all get a copy of that? Did she
Nope.
No,
forward
I got it as an email, I'm happy to forward
I-
it. Did she send it to everybody?
I
No,
think she
but-
sent it to maybe you and I.
You and I, okay. That's kind of made it, we don't want that. Okay, this is, when Tracy sent the note to Diane and I, so this is the policy piece that can come later, see Kate's comments, Kate is the, town council.
She works in town council's office.
Rules and regulations. Okay, I've got it here, I'm gonna forward it by email to I'll send it to everybody.
There you go.
Don't need to send it to Tracy. You've already got it, right? Do we want another copy email? No. I'm gonna send it to Rick, John, and Anthony. Done.
And it's away.
What a country.
Okay, any further discussion on the update on bylaws? Thank you in advance, Diane and Tony, for that. Other new business? Next meeting is scheduled for December the 24th, 4 p.m.
See you then.
Is that a candlelight meeting we'll be having?
Yeah.
Apostolic.
The question is, do we feel like we can make enough headway in either one of these two issues we just discussed to schedule a quick meeting for the, if people are available,
17th,
on the 17th?
what it is?
It's Monday the 17th. I mean, we skipped October, which is the first meeting we skipped in many moon, but I feel like with a couple of these things pending, especially this issue of PD, and like to get back to the folks on it, I'd like to recommend we schedule the 17th. How do people feel about that? Are you available?
Yes.
It's fine.
Not hearing any concerns?
I think my sense is.
HR board, 4 p.m. on December 17th. Good?
Good.
Thank you all in advance. If, what I will do is I will check with Diane well in advance. If it turns out that there is nothing of tremendous value that we're ready to discuss on either one of these matters, then we can talk about the possibility of skipping. How's that?
Yeah.
When people are coming, if we have no, if there are no pressing issues that come up otherwise, and or if we haven't, not a lot of progress made on the issue of language for policies, procedures, or on the PD question, then we can talk about scheduling. And I'll let everybody know a week in advance on that, 2 weeks from now.
Could I ask a question? The material that went over to town council, do we have a copy of that? Because we would need that.
I think I have it,
I'll look at that.
and I would have it electronically, because it was sent electronically to town council, so.
I mean, I have my notes that I took during the committee meetings,
I have the
but
final draft that
that's
was
right,
sent.
that's what I'm looking for,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so you want me to
To
email that
see
to you?
what
that'd
she
be great.
changed.
Mm.
Okay.
Is Christmas Eve a holiday in town? I noticed there's 11 holidays, is that one of them? No. So we've got Christmas Day and New Year's Day as two holidays coming up in the next that put any urgency on getting an answer to this question, John, about,
Well, that's why I said it was a good idea.
Well, I mean, if the answer is the affirmative, I'm sure we can work a retro back, you know what I mean, and just, I'm not really worried about that. You know, if it's decided that, yeah, this is what it should be, well, it stands to reason this is what it should have been, and we can retro it back, you know, for this particular year, I would imagine.
okay. So it just seems like in order to get things ready for the 17th, for that meeting, whatever you've got on your list, Diane, that you
Yeah.
signed up for would need to get done before that.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
if
no, I'm
that's
gonna-
feasible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it this week.
And for all I know, I mean, as far as the urgency is concerned, I don't know what the chances are that one of the affected personnel would even be working then
Yeah.
anyway, you know, so I mean, don't worry about that urgency, you know, we can just, you know,
This is one that we should be able to kill dead pretty quick.
I hope so, yeah, it seems pretty ground ball to me,
Yeah,
but, you
right.
know, there's always some hidden things that, you know, you
Sure.
don't know, so.
And if the answer is, it's really the will of the board, you know, there's no concrete, there's no conclusive evidence that 50 other towns do it this way versus that way. If it comes down to what do we think is the best thing, we'll make a decision.
Yeah.
Do the right thing.
Yeah, it's public service, yeah, public safety. Anything else? Okay, so just to confirm, the subcommittee is meeting on the, subcommittee is meeting on Thursday the 13th at 9 AM. That's Rick, Diane, and myself, and as well, that's assuming that the appropriate managers are in place to meet with us. And then on the 17th, we have got a tentative date for our December HR board meeting pending progress on these two issues.
Yep.
Okay? Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.